Shove it, man!
The McMahons, one of the most famous names in wrestling. A massive presence during the Attitude Era and beyond. The family that runs the WWE. But not just that, they also mixed it up in the ring. Shane McMahon is famous for some great wrestling matches with crazy dives that live long in the memories of wrestling fans. Vinnie Mac's one of the best on the microphone, and he was a huge contributor to the success of the Attitude Era. And he also had some great wrestling matches when paired with the right opponent. And then there's Stephanie. She was also decent on the microphone, although a bit irritating in my opinion. But would it surprise you to know that Stephanie actually had 24 wrestling matches? But the question is, do they live up to the same pretty high standards in the ring of her dad and her brother? Or am I about to suffer? Welcome to Ring at the Hawk, the show where we watch back and grade a wrestler's matches. The rules here are 30 or less matches and the B shows do not count. Today's video is a Patreon request from Courtney McCulloch. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up on Patreon today. It's a big day for Ring at the Hawk today. We're finally going to witness the start of our women's division. Hopefully. It might be a failure. And just a friendly reminder, we aren't just looking at the quality of the wrestling match, mic work and entertainment values are included. And we all know that Stephanie can at least handle herself on the mic. She's certainly not my cup of tea, but she's fine. And of course,
if you know a wrestler that can do the J-O-B to the H-A-W-K any night, any day, ha ha, shove their name in the comments, Jack.
Alright, Stephanie McMahon, is the Hawk a fan or does she belong in the trash can? Match 1, Raw. We start out the video with, I'm not making this up, a wild slapnuts appears.
Jeff Jarrett.
It's a tag match, Jeff Jarrett and Deborah with Miss Kitty versus Tess and Stephanie McMahon. Steph and Tess come out holding hands. This is during the time that they were engaged in storyline terms. I don't think much of her ring attire, she looks like a nerdy fanboy. Jarrett and Tess fight the whole match because the two ladies involved aren't exactly seasoned veterans. Tess hits the diving elbow on Slapnuts and then Tess tags Stephanie in. She then cautiously rolls over and makes the tag, and this one's over. Jesus Christ, is this what I'm in for this entire video? This is not going to be easy. I feel like I need to smack myself in the gut and pop a perk to get through this one. Jarrett beats up Deborah after the bell because he's a bad loser. Slapnuts would leave the WWF about a month after this after holding Vince McMahon hostage over that $300,000. But he's 100% sure he was only getting what was owed to him. By the way, the match is an S. Match 2, SmackDown main event, 6 months later. Well, hopefully she's had time to get better at this point because that last one could be described as nothing less than a complete waste of this Hawk's time. For the WWF Women's title, Stephanie McMahon with Triple H versus the Women's Champion Jacqueline. Stephanie runs away straight away, she isn't feeling this match. Then the DX music hits and the three friends walk out to give Stephanie some moral support. Steph still doesn't want to get in the ring and there's a lengthy argument with Earl Hebner. Earl rings the bell anyway and Stephanie runs away again. Jacqueline eventually chases her down but X-Pac trips her up in the ring. Tori clambers into the ring and hits her DDT with the referee distracted. Steph then crawls over and pins Jacqueline to become the new Women's Champion. I can't believe this bird turd was the main event. It's an S if you didn't guess. I feel physically sick at watching this all night. I don't understand why you all enjoy my suffering so much. Why would you want me to watch this, Courtney McCulloch? If the Hawk ever meets any of you in a dark alley, be prepared to take a brick to the head. Match 3, SmackDown, Women's title, 10 shows later. So I guess you can tell this isn't going to be a good year for the WWF Women's division. It's a women's battle royal for the title and the winner will face Steph straight after. Oh, and the referee is her little DX bum buddy, Tori, so you can see which way this one's going already. It's a terrible match that is won by Lita after she pins Ivory following a moonsault. As soon as the match is over, Tori hits that cool finisher manoeuvre she did on Lita, and that's about it. Steph crawls over to make the cover and it's over again. And again it's an S. And again my wall has a new fist mark in it. Match 4, Raw, Women's title match. The champion Stephanie McMahon, who is barred from having any of her little friends at ringside, and she takes on the challenger Lita. Lita charges at her and grabs her straight away. Stephanie takes her first move as Lita snap nears her. Lita then boots her down with a dropkick. Then Lita knocks her off the ring apron as Stephanie cries and holds onto her little knee. The referee goes to check on her and then suddenly Kurt Angle appears in the ring and he hits an ankle slam on Lita. Stephanie crawls back into the ring and makes the pin. I guess it doesn't count because Kurt Angle isn't her friend then. Yet another S. Before the next one, Triple H and Stephanie have a lover's tiff because Steph got Triple H flowers. Why would she think he wants flowers? Does he look like the sort of man who'd like them? He thinks it was Kurt Angle and he destroys them. I can't understand why a woman thinks a man would want a flower. Triple H looks like he'd prefer a nose job. Match 5, tag match, Shane and Stephanie McMahon versus the team of Lita and the Big Show. Shane immediately runs from the Big Show and Steph is left on her own. Lita smacks her one and then she throws Steph across the ring. We're getting a real treat here as Lita throws her again. Then Lita hits a suplex. Wow, I must have popped too many. Lita's looking for a moonsault, but then TRISH Stratus runs into the ring and locks her off the top. TRISH hits her with the belt and then they beat Lita down. The match just ends. I think it was thrown out. I'll give it a D because at least she took a few basic wrestling moves here. Match 6, SmackDown main event. No DQ match. 6-man tag. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H team up with Kurt Angle, who are a team that don't get on. They take on Lita and the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon. This match is not really about the ladies. Kurt does tag Steph eventually and she boots Devon in the ribs, but then she's forced to tag back out. The Dudleys are winning and they've beaten up Angle and Triple H already. They fetch a table and then they turn to look at Stephanie as the crowd screams with happiness at the prospect of her going for a table. Luckily for her, the game makes the save. Lita comes into the match and she knocks Steph down. Lita then throws her across the ring, haircut first. Then Lita hits a suplex and she goes for a moonsault, but Triple H makes the save. Then the game hits a pedigree on Lita and he puts his wife on top of Lita. She didn't even have to crawl for this one. The ref is gone and it's not over yet though because Bubba's in the ring. He tries to powerbomb her, but Kurt makes the save. Then Steph crawls over to cover Lita and it's game over. Another bad wrestling performance, but it was fairly entertaining, so I guess it's a D. Match 7, Raw main event, women's title match. The challenger is Lita versus the women's champion Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, who's accompanied by Kurt Angle and Triple H. The Rock comes out to be the special referee though, so the sides are a little bit more even now. Lita hits a weak looking spear and she batters Steph in the corner. Then Lita hits a big time snap mirror. Steph stops Lita with a knee to the face, but wow, Lita hits her with a hurricanrana, but somehow Steph kicks out. Everyone starts getting involved on the outside and then the Hardys join the audience on the outside. Steph starts hitting some kicks in the corner. This one's already run longer than any of her other singles matches. Then Stephanie hits a monkey flip in the corner. Wow, she's been practicing. Steph continues dominating with a boot to the gut and a DDT. Lita kicks out at 2. It looked like it was over. Steph starts arguing with the Rocky referee. Lita and Steph then give each other slaps. Lita's now back into this one with another head scissors. Steph keeps getting up and Lita knocks her down. Lita then grabs Steph around her head and hits a TRISH Stratus style bulldog. It should be over, but again Steph kicks out. It's like she's become an actual wrestler. Back on their feet, Lita hits a suplex on Stephanie. She heads off to do a moonsault, but that hasn't worked for her this entire video and Kurt Angle stops her as expected. Angle has the women's belt, but The Rock sees him and he beats up the Olympic hero. Stephanie gets hold of the belt, but she's not much of a threat and The Rock hits her with the spine buster. Lita then heads upstairs and crashes into her with the moonsault. Wow, this was actually done really well, with Lita failing every week to hit the moonsault and failing to beat the numbers advantage. Not bad at all. I give the match a C for entertainment value and for improving in the ring. But there's no need to sing. At least she's not the champion anymore. That run wasn't exactly good. Match 8, SmackDown main event. Lita teams up with The Rock to take on Stephanie McMahon with Kurt Angle. Everyone starts fighting on the outside before the bell. Lita hurls Stephanie into the ring apron. They make it into the ring where Stephanie boots Lita in the ribs. It doesn't hurt her too much though as Lita hits a hurricanrana. The Rock then puts the sharpshooter on Kurt, but Steph breaks it up by slapping him square in his big forehead. Kurt crashes into Steph on the ring apron and she smashes into the steel steps. She's down. Triple H rushes out to check on her and he carries her away. The match carries on with cuts to the back where Steph is on a couch with paramedics. Triple H comes back out looking to beat some people up, including the referee, so the match is thrown out. This wasn't much of a match from Steph's perspective, it was an S. They go off the air that night with Kurt Angle delivering an A-star kiss to Stephanie on the couch. I bet that's the only A we'll be seeing on this video. Match 9, Raw, 6-man tag. Kurt Angle, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, aka the Brick to the Head squad, versus TNA, TRISH Stratus and Test and Albert. Not the usual TNA I'm talking about on this channel. Steph shoves Trish down straight away and the match starts. I don't like to talk about other wrestlers other than our competitor on Ring of the Hawk, but shout out Albert who hits this beautiful suplex on Angle. Love watching power moves like this one. I almost thought he was going to hit an awesome Kong implant buster, but Kurt doesn't have implants, at least I don't think. I need to shut up before someone smacks me one. Kurt tags Steph in and she doesn't seem to want it, so Triple H takes over. Steph eventually does end up in the ring with her ex-fiancé and she slaps him. Tess shoves her in the corner and brings Trish in, who hits her with a bulldog. Test is looking to hit Steph with the top rope elbow drop, but the game makes the save. Triple H hits the pedigree on Test and Stephanie McMahon pins him, although I'm not sure how much she knew about it. How humiliating for Test. Kurt keeps hugging Stephanie after the bell and then the game flips out and attacks him. Personally, I would have done the same thing if it was my fiance. It's another S for Steph. Match 10, Raw Tag Match, Triple H and Stephanie versus Kurt Angle and TRISH STRATUS. The men fight most of the match. Steph eventually does come in and Kurt knocks her down, and he didn't mean to do it because he fancies her. Steph slaps him and then leaves the match again. Later in the match, Steph catches Trish on the top rope and she slams her, probably quite impressive for this video. The two ladies proceed to have a cat fight. I'm surprised it's taken 10 matches to get to this point. Steph scores a knockdown with a clothesline. Trish fights back by hitting her with the bulldog, but then the game comes into the ring and hits Trish with the pedigree. Stephanie crawls over and makes the cover. JR describes it as Trish just got pedigreed out of her bra. I'm tired of seeing these four individuals already and we're not even halfway through the video. But looking at the list of the upcoming matches, they seem to be getting longer in length. And that's either a good thing or a bad thing. Oh, the match is an S. Match 11, No Way Out 2001, TRISH STRATUS versus Stephanie McMahon. Steph starts out spearing Trish down and pounding on her. Trish is terrified of Stephanie. Trish tries to hold onto the ropes, but Steph drops her on her back. Steph is a house on fire and she does a hair mare, ripping out some of Trish's blonde locks. The fight goes to the outside where Trish turns it around and throws Stephanie over the crowd barrier. Steph fights back with a straight up smack. Now Stephanie seems to have taken flying lessons for her brother as she dives off the crowd barrier. They head back into the ring, but Trish drops Steph across the ropes. Trish is going nuts now as her ass hangs out. Trish hits the bulldog and then she sorts her wedgie out as the crowd loudly boo. Trish nails her with another move next as she hits a DDT for a 2 count. Stephanie's really struggling as Trish chokes her in the corner. It backfires though as Stephanie slams Trish from the top for the double down. The fight then heads to the outside again as Steph slams Trish into the commentary desk. She then adds insult to injury as she gets Trish wet. What did the Hawk just say? They then get back in the ring where Trish jumps at Stephanie, but she gets caught with a power bomb. It's just a 2. Now Steph stops wrestling and starts trying to strip Trish. This gains her an extra positive grade for sure. Both women charge at each other and crash for another double down. William Regal then appears and he takes the referee out. Problem is Regal can't decide who he wants to help win. Eventually he decides to take Trish out and Stephanie crawls over to make the cover for the 3. Surprisingly, Steph controlled the majority of this match and it was still fine. Nothing terrible and she did do better than expected. I give her a C as she continues to improve. Well, apparently Vince didn't like William Regal's decision in that last match because it leads to the following match. Match 12, Raw. Stephanie McMahon and William Regal versus Vince McMahon and TRISH STRATUS accompanied by a mop bucket. Trish takes Steph out of the double leg and then hits a hair mare twice and it sure wasn't nice. Trish wants a bulldog but Steph reverses it. Now Steph hits a suplex and she manages to get a 2 count. Steph follows up by nailing the DDT and Trish kicks out again. Both women start running around and Trish hits what I suppose is supposed to be a bulldog, but it looks like garbage. Trish makes the tag to Vince and he teases beating up Stephanie and he has a microphone. He tells Stephanie that he always gets what he wants and he throws Trish into the ring. He says the match is over and then they all beat up Trish in a big turn. They then cover her in sewage or pig vomit or bird turd. How am I supposed to know what it is? This segment is notorious nowadays, notoriously sexy. Steph did okay here, but it wasn't much of a match. It's a D. Oh yeah, Stephanie looks curlier than Tracy Beaker here, by the way. Match 13, Raw whipping match. Ugh. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, who desperately needs a new attire, versus TRISH STRATUS. This is just after Vince and Shane clashed at WrestleMania, in what was probably a much better match than this one's going to be. Steph tries to stamp on Trish as she climbs into the ring, but she falls over. Steph then manages to get back up and hits a DDT. She starts whipping Trish, who eventually kicks her off. Trish then gets her in the corner and hits the bulldog. It's Stephanie's turn to get whipped. Stephanie has to use Lillian Garcia as a human shield and then she shoves her into Trish to gain the advantage. It doesn't last long and Steph hits her with a short arm clothesline and she has double whips for Trish. Trish turns it around and Stephanie gets hung up on the ropes as Trish whips her on the moneymaker. Regal gets involved again, but Chris Jericho gets rid of him. Jericho then chases Steph away, so this one seems to just be over like that. A bad match, it's an S. I feel like I'm dying, I can't take much more of this. Match 14, Raw, main event. 6-man tag, Team Extreme versus the 2-man power trip and Stephanie. Watching this from Stephanie's perspective makes me want to smack myself. Why does she have to keep being in these sort of main event matches? I have to ignore anything good that's going on in this match and just focus on Stephanie's weak-ass offense. The men just fight the whole match. Then when Stephanie finally does get in the match, LITA hits her straight away with a twist of fate and the moonsault, and she wins the match for her team. Can't take much more of this. She's still rubbish, isn't she? 14 matches, mostly main events, and she's done nothing to warrant her spot. It's an S, I need to calm down. Alright, deep breaths. Match 15, Raw, main event, handicap match, Stephanie McMahon. Something seems more interesting about her. I can't quite put my beak on it, and she's teaming up with her ex-fiancé Test. I'm surprised how much their past is mentioned. I expected it to be swept under the rug, and they take on The Rock. Steph doesn't really seem to want to be in this match, and she goes on commentary. What am I saying? She hasn't really been in any of these matches. The Rock goes for the people's elbow, but Stephanie stops him, and this allows Tess to hit the big boot. Stephanie asks for the tag and she makes the cover, but The Rock kicks out. Steph seems more attractive here, but I'm just not sure why. The Rock tries to hit Stephanie with the rock bottom, but Tess saves her. Booker T then randomly appears, and The Rock pushes Tess into Stephanie, who falls into Booker's arms on the outside, and then The Rock puts Tess away. As usual, her being in the main event was a complete waste of time. 15 matches, and the most impressive thing she's done is powerbomb TRISH STRATUS. I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling big time here, Shove It Squad. Match 16, Raw handicap match. Stephanie McMahon, who's definitely been working out or something. It's almost like I'm looking at a different person. And she teams up with Test again because it went so well last time. And they take on The Rock again. What's the point? Stephanie starts out the match with a Samoan drop and locks on the Boston Crab. No, I'm kidding, she just stands on the ring apron like a moron again. They don't learn and Tess takes The Rock out and then Stephanie wants to tag, but The Rock's playing possum and Steph leaves the match again. Tess misses the big boot and The Rock hits the rock bottom, but Stephanie takes the referee away to discuss her new fitness regime. The Rock gives Nick Patrick the rock bottom for his troubles. Everyone is down but Steph, and The Rock tells her to just bring it, but she doesn't want to. Rock throws her into the ring and then Shane McMahon appears and The Rock smacks him one. Booker T's now in the ring and the numbers game's getting the best of The Rock. Test hits a big boot and then Booker T hits the scissors kick. Shane McMahon tries a dive but he can't make it to the top and the crowd laugh at him. Then he manages it and hits a dive and a spinneroonie. Why am I even covering this? None of this has anything to do with Stephanie. And then they let Stephanie get the pin. Why the hell was any of that necessary? Why doesn't Tess get the pin? What were they thinking? Tess could have really used a pin over The Rock. For what it's worth, which isn't a lot, it's another S. Well, no matches for Stephanie for the next 6 months, thank God. 16 matches down and nothing worth my time. But out of 24 matches, there has to be one good match, surely. Match 17, Raw main event, triple threat for the Undisputed Championship. You've got to be kidding me. Stephanie McMahon versus Chris Jericho versus the champion Triple H. Steph just lets them get on with it, if you might have guessed. She lies down for Jericho to try and get him the easy win, but Triple H stops her. The game tries to pedigree his wife, but Jericho saves her. Steph then gets taken out of the match for a while with a baseball slide. Later in the match, Jericho misses a lionsault and Steph tries to get the pin on him, but Jericho kicks out at 2. Y2J then puts her in the walls of Jericho as punishment, but she's only in it for 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Triple H then tries to pedigree her, but Jericho hits him with a drop kick. The game and Triple H then manage to take each other out with belt shots at the same time, but Steph can't pin either one of them. Maybe if she could just add something to herself to increase her weight, she might be able to keep these 2 guys down. I can only think of 2 things she could add. Stephanie stops Jericho from winning. This woman seriously wants to be the champion. Triple H hits the pedigree on Jericho, but Steph breaks up the pin. This is a weird ass match. Triple H finally takes her out of a very safe looking spine buster, and the match is done. I guess he didn't want to pedigree her. It's a D because at least she stayed in the ring for most of the match. You know, people talk about China in intergender matches, but Stephanie had a fair few too. She just sucked. Well, by the sounds of it, Stephanie losing that match means she has to leave the WWE, but unfortunately for me, it's not the end of the video. It got my hopes up here, but I was let down, just like being served a turd burger. Match 18, 16 months later, SmackDown main event, no holds barred handicap match. The Big Show versus SmackDown General Manager Stephanie McMahon and the one-legged wonder Zach Gowen. Zach is trying to protect Stephanie, but he's not doing well. Steph jumps onto the Big Show on the outside and he gives her a piggyback ride. He eventually throws Steph off onto the floor. Show presses Stephanie overhead and dumps her into the ring with Zach Gowen. Show has Stephanie above his head, but Zach saves her with a drop kick. He pays for it though as Show hits him with a brutal chokeslam. Vince is also here and he starts dumping in his nappy and threatening Steph. Show then wants to hit her with the chokeslam, but Kurt Angle appears and makes the save. Then Brock Lesnar also helps him. Zach boots a chair into the Big Show's face. Angle hits the Angle Slam, Brock Lesnar hits the F5 and the Big Show is dead. Zach hits a dropkick on Vince that knocks his phone out of his hands. Then Zach puts away the Big Show with a moonsault. Stephanie can shove it in the zone, there's no need to moan. Match 19. I don't know how I'm still standing at this point. Vengeance 2003. Cat fight. Stephanie McMahon, the general manager of SmackDown. Can you imagine watching the manager at your work in a cat fight? And she takes on Sable. Steph attacks Sable on the ramp and then gives Sable a wedgie. Shade to Trish Stratus. In fact, she's even dressed the same as Trish Stratus, I think. Sable drop kicks Steph and gets a 2 count, and then she hits a slow motion kick in the corner. Sable's being too cocky and Steph rolls her up, but it's only a 2. Sable punts her back down. Stephanie then hits a hair drag for a 2. It's basic stuff, you know, what did you expect from this one? It then turns into a cat fight, the kind of stuff you'd expect. Steph tries to boot Sable on the floor, but somehow she misses. Or I'd rather watch them in a bikini contest than them trying to wrestle. Then Sable falls out of her top. The ref tries to cover her up with his own top. Suddenly the A-Train appears and he flattens Stephanie, and then Sable makes the cover for game over. That was random, but I'll tell you what's not random. It's an S. 19 matches, who am I kidding? They're all probably terrible, I've lost faith. How can this woman appear in so many main event matches and only be slightly above terrible in every single one? Someone else could really have done with her spot. Match 20, SmackDown main event. You've got to be kidding me. Stephanie McMahon, who looks like she's gotten even bigger, but I can't put my point on where she looks bigger. By the way, I love Staffies. She'll be taking on the A-Train. Seems like a fair matchup. Steph slaps Train so he throws her across the ring. Train then shunts her into the corner. I quite enjoyed that one. A-Train's going to hit her with the train wreck, but the Undertaker saves her, but the Big Show takes him out. Train comes back into the ring and crushes Stephanie with a splash from the corner. I don't know, a D, because I enjoyed seeing her get squashed and A-Train beating her up. Moving on. Match 21, No Mercy 2003, I Quit match. Stephanie McMahon with Linda McMahon versus Vince McMahon with Sable. Okay, now we're talking. This is the sort of match that has the potential to be good. I'm sure Vince won't let us down here. Vince gets the jump while Stephanie has her back turned to start us off. It's ugly and clunky. Vince is distracted, so Steph kicks him in the gut, but Vince blocks her next attempt and gives her a clothesline to the floor. Vince puts her in a half Boston as Steph screams and cries no. This is uncomfortable viewing, she sounds like she's dying. The only thing saving Stephanie is Linda beating up Sable and distracting her dad on the outside. Apparently Steph can win this one via pinfall, and she almost rolls her dad up after a smack to the nutsack. Steph has a pipe and she batters her daddy with it. Then she dives from the top with a pipe shot, but Vince gets his foot on the rope. Seems a bit lame to be following the rules like this in an I Quit match. Sable is causing a distraction, but it backfires and Steph hits a bulldog on her daddy, but it's only a 2 count. Vince turns it around by hitting her with a pipe and then choking out Stephanie. Linda eventually throws the towel in and the match is over. Boring and uncomfortable. This is the sort of match that Shane McMahon would have ruled in, but Stephanie's certainly not on his level. Stephanie is no longer the general manager of SmackDown, but I don't care about that because I only have 3 more terrible matches to watch. It's an S. Match 22, Raw, 11 years later. Mudpool match. Oh wow, I guess she gave up on making an in-ring career for herself. Vickie Guerrero versus Stephanie McMahon. The first person to end up in the pool of mud loses. Stephanie brings out some of the WWE ladies, so I guess this won't be a proper match after all. Well, the record books say it is. Vickie fights off the other ladies for a while, but then Stephanie, who's not a wrestler, knocks her into the pool. This made the other wrestlers look dumb and stupid. Stephanie then fires Vickie. This really sucked on so many levels. It's an S and she's incredibly irritating at this point. Is this what WWE fans had to put up with every week with her promos to start the show? It's no wonder I stopped watching. It's actually X-Pac heat at this point, she's so cringy. Vickie ends up throwing Stephanie into the pool, so now it's a D. But it's not much better than that, there's no need to pee. Match 23, SummerSlam 2014. Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella. Steph somehow looks far better than her opponent here, in terms of way she looks. Steph also has a huge size advantage, and I'm not talking about those 2 other things. Steph keeps choking the Bella twin while she looks confused. Brie starts wrestling her and takes her down with some arm drags. Steph then goes back to the power game. The crowd seem confused. They then wake up with a Daniel Bryan chant. Brie tries to put the yes lock on, but Steph escapes. Brie tries to dive to the outside, but Stephanie clobbers her. It looked quite painful. She wants to win by count out, but Brie makes it back in. Steph then goes old school with a DDT for a 2 count. Steph snaps Brie's neck whilst the crowd chant, "You've still got it." It must be sarcasm. The Bella then fights back with a Luthez press and kicks in the corner. She then hits a missile dropkick, but Steph kicks out of 2. Then Triple H and the other Bella appear. I guess just to drag this match out even longer. Stephanie's looking for the pedigree, but Brie reverses it into the yes lock, but Triple H takes the referee out the ring. Brie takes Triple H out of a baseball slide. Both Bellas are now in the ring, but Nikki then randomly turns on her twin sister. Don't know, don't care. Steph picks her up and nails the pedigree, which is surprisingly the first time she's hit that move in this entire video. It's over, Steph wins. Look, they tried hard, but it was just an average match at best. It's a C. You still got it, you never had it. 23 matches and they've all been absolute horse. Yes, there's been some average ones in there, but nothing to make up for the majority of the terrible matches. Stephanie McMahon is an example of nepotism and she should never have been in this position in the ring. None of her matches have lived up to expectations. I don't even know if people had expectations at the time. Look, let's just get this last one out the way. It's going to be terrible like the rest of them, I know it. Match 24, final match, oh thank God. Mixed tag match, WrestleMania 24. Stephanie and her husband are apparently bikers now, and Stephanie copies his spitting water entrance. They take on Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey, who's making her debut here. Stephanie starts out pie-facing Ronda, then she pulls her down by the hair, but she doesn't seem to fancy starting the match. Steph helps her husband start cheating as Kurt is thrown to the outside. The game then takes its turn distracting the ref and Steph slams Kurt into the steps. Steph continues trying to help her husband until he almost decks her. Kurt's really struggling and he almost tags his partner in, but Stephanie pulls Ronda off the ring apron. Considering she hasn't really been in this match, she's been quite involved. Kurt Angle then really milks the tag to Ronda. He takes forever to make it. Come on, she's literally a breath away, just put your finger out. But eventually he does it. She hits a nice clothesline and a back suplex on Stephanie. She then gets Steph in the corner and boxes her as the crowd go nuts. Ronda's really dominating her and Steph calls for a timeout. Everything Ronda does seems to have an extra snap to it and she monkey flips Steph from the corner and then she puts on an armbar. But Steph reverses it. Stephanie McMahon with the submission! Then she pokes Ronda in the eyes. Steph wants to tag out but her husband is still down, so she goes to the old school and hits a DDT for a 2 count. Steph tries to get her to tap out next, but again she won't do it and Steph releases the hold. Ronda is then playing possum and she grabs Steph and hits her with a devastating slam. It should be over, but Triple H takes the referee away. Then Triple H attacks Ronda to the outside. The match now slows down as Triple H tends to his wife and he fights Ronda Rousey. Ronda wants to slam Triple H, but Steph makes the save and she slaps her as Steph dumps in her nappy. Steph starts running away and Ronda catches her and almost throws her through the barricade. Then the ring pole gets involved and both women are down. Steph makes it back up eventually and she gets in Kurt Angle's face in the ring and tries to boot him in the gut. This is a bad move as Kurt grabs her leg and puts on the ankle lock, but unfortunately it's only for a second before her husband saves her. Ronda has the armbar on Triple H, but then Steph makes the save and puts her in a sleeper, but Ronda fights it off. She then locks the armbar on Stephanie and Kurt Angle puts the ankle lock on Triple H at the same time, but the game fights it off and sends Kurt crashing into Ronda. Steph tries a pedigree next, but Ronda reverses it and puts her in the armbar again. It's kinda silly if you think about this barely trained wrestler hanging on in a real fighter's armbar for so long. Then Ronda gets real and snaps her arm and makes her tap out. Wow, I'm in complete shock, we finally got a match that didn't suck. It wasn't the best match that I've ever seen, but guys, it didn't suck. 24 matches and it finally didn't suck. Now that we've done that, we need to give Steph a final grade and decide if she deserves a place on the Ring of the Hawk women's roster. Well, 24 matches, and nearly all of them were poor and they left me on the floor. So it's not a good score. Stephanie McMahon, you get out of my sight and get hit by the door, because I can't take any more. It's a D, and yes, I'm sure. And by the way, in 2001, you look like a whore. Watching these matches was a real chore, and if you don't agree with that, I'll punch you in the gut forevermore.